Hello, it's your favorite sports Unc here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the fastest growing community on YouTube. Remember, Nightcap doesn't happen without you. So please subscribe or you're going to make Ocho cry.
Many believe he's the greatest wrestler of all time, a many-time champion. Here he is joining the stage right now, the legendary Shawn Michaels.
You want him to sit here?
No, you good, right there.
It's a pleasure, baby. It's an honor.
Shawn, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Sorry.
Good to see
I
you,
didn't
man.
know what's coming up now. So short. I know. Thank you very much.
How you been?
I am wonderful. Appreciate it.
So let me ask you this: what's been one of your biggest challenges? Now you've kind of transitioned, running NXT. What's been the biggest transition for you?
Tying a tie. putting on the suit, looking like a corporate head. No, look, I will say this. I don't know. You guys know probably better than me. You play the game, but then trying to, I don't know, help coach it or teach it
Right.
is not always an easy transition. So
When you're as great as you were, the patience that you need to have, because things that probably came easy to you might not come easy to someone else.
Well, thank you. I mean, first of all, but again, it's the same thing,
Yes.
right? And that was, I will say, that's been the most challenging part. Was some things, I don't know. I was given a gift, and when you're doing it and you're in the moment of it, you're not thinking about that.
Correct.
And then afterwards, so many things you go back and you try to teach. And they ask you, like, well, how this, how that, how did this happen? And I know it was just there. It was just there. And so, but again, that's been the part where I've had to learn how to convey that in the best possible message that I can. And I was fortunate to be able to have some time as a trainer and a coach before I was in the role that I'm in now.
Correct.
And now, again, I'm able to meet them where they're at. Over the years, I've learned how to do that, is understanding that not all of them are the same, and being able to, again, try to understand where they're at and not to be teaching for 10 years down the road,
Right.
but meet them where they're at currently.
Right.
And that's been the biggest help for me going forward. And again, one of the things that's also an advantage to us is we teach and then they move on. And so I at least get enough reps because you have a new group coming in.
Yes.
And you kind of have to, it's sort of rinse and repeat, so to speak, with the exception of small little detail things here and there. But for the most part, you end up covering the gambit and you at least get enough reps at it that it becomes a little bit easier the more you do it.
And that's the biggest thing. When you talk to greats in any particular sport, any particular thing, what came easy is hard. Those that can do, those that can't teach, you did because you could do. Now, how do you show patience, show grace, and says, what came so easy to Shawn Michaels? What was a God-given gift? How do I convey that? Because they're asking you, well, how? You're like, I just did it. And now you got to like, well, you have to do it like this. When no one really had to explain it to you, you just had that God-given gift.
Well, again, that's where I go back to making them, or doing my best to have them really define and delineate and detail what it is they're looking for and asking about. The hardest thing for us is a very natural feel. And also, as you gentlemen know, you almost can't teach timing.
Right, correct.
Timing is something that our business, as yours, sort of hangs on. Through reps, you can get close to it, but a lot of it is a feel and a timing thing, and trying to get them to understand that, and to not, the biggest thing with that, because that may not always get perfectly in sync, but the closer they can get to it, the better chance they have. So a lot of it is teaching them patience in that respect, and knowing that nothing is going to happen easy, but when everything is said and done, more reps is going to give you the better results. You're certainly not going to get worse if you're continuing to hit it time and time and time and time again. And again, that comes down to work ethic. And then when you get into the conversations of wanting to be great, as you guys know, a word that gets tossed around way too freely now.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, trying to really help them understand what it means to try and be that. It's one thing to say it; it's another thing to put into practice, attaining
Become
it.
great. Yeah. Did you always want to be a wrestler? Did you have any idea when you got started many years ago that wrestling would be what it's become, or as we say in the South, wrestling? Did you have any idea? Because wrestling, and I know you know this, but a lot of people at home. Wrestling used to just be regional. You had you had the South, you had the Northeast, you had the Mid-Atlantic, you had the that's where wrestling was. And then somehow Vince McMahon, he merged all this together. They had the NWA, and they merged all this together, and it became one. Did you want to be a wrestler? And when you started, did you have any idea it would take you to the places that it's taken you, and it would become what it's become?
I'm 60. So when I started, it was Southwest Championship Wrestling. I knew at 12 years old. I saw it one time. I got to stay up late, and all of a sudden this montage comes on. Again, grainy. Again, the production quality is horrible, but you don't know it at the time. And it was the most mesmerizing thing I had ever seen, and I was like, oh my goodness. That's it. It was the perfect display of athleticism, but theatrics. And I just thought to myself, that's what I want to do. And I can remember telling my mom at 12 years old, Mama, I'm going to be a pro wrestler when I grow up. That's nice, honey. But in my mind, by the time I was 19 and got an opportunity to do it, being the Southwest heavyweight champion and having a one-bedroom apartment and my own car was going to be the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
And in 1985, I had just started wrestling. And that was when Vince McMahon first began to go kind of global.
Right.
The first WrestleMania was in Madison Square Garden. I was wrestling in Oklahoma City while WrestleMania was being shown on closed circuit TV at the arena.
Wow.
But I was wrestling while that show was going on. And all we did was hear about it. We heard about it, but then you thought to yourself, like, wow, that's cool. But at that time, all those guys in the territory were telling you he's going to ruin the business, he's going to kill it, he's ruining everything. 2 years later, I'm in Minnesota wrestling, but we're on ESPN now.
Wow.
It was now on cable television. They're trying to compete with Vince. But now everybody knew that New York was the place you wanted to be. So that's the time, again, it was probably 1986 that you started realizing that what he's got going on there is big. But again, had no idea that it would become what it is now. So no, I was somebody that got into it. I guess to answer your question,
you knew early on
I knew this is what I wanted to do, but a one-bedroom apartment and my own car seemed like the greatest thing in the world. And now we have a life unlike I'd never possibly imagined.
I sat down with Ric Flair, 16-time champ. Sat down with John Cena. We had Uso. I've had many wrestlers and talked to. Many said the greatest wrestler ever is Shawn Michaels. Ric Flair says your understanding of the moment and the timing and the theatrics of it, what goes into it. There's nobody even. I said, well, what about you? I said, he says, there's no one close to Shawn Michaels. He's the greatest. He says, and that's no disrespect to Hogan. That's no disrespect to anyone. Dusty Rhodes, all those guys. There's no disrespect to them. He said, but Shawn Michaels is the greatest wrestler. When you hear someone as established and as well thought of as the Nature Boy himself say that Shawn Michaels is the greatest, how does that make you feel?
It's the greatest compliment a guy could have. To be even be in the conversation.
Yes.
And I don't know. For me, whether it was Rick, I always tried to. Our business is what it is, right? It's entertainment.
Yes. Yes.
but you can still love that. Again, I was still, even though, because I went through my ups and downs, trials and tribulations, but when I was in there, I was the most romantic guy there was about this job.
Yeah.
I was still the 12-year-old kid in there every
Yes.
time, especially when I was in there with Rick or some of these guys, but being at a WrestleMania with John, or I don't know, I was so enamored. I never fell out of love with the opportunity of being able to go in there and do that. And so I think if there was anything that might have been able to set me apart from everybody, is that I fully grasped and engaged with that love and that passion and that, again, that romance. Again, again, we say this about the old saying, there's a certain who can't be romantic about baseball, who can't be romantic about football. That's how wrestling was for me.
Right.
It was my lifeblood, and so I always allowed myself to be in there in those moments, and I think that came across to people. I think they could see that I was so enamored with what I was doing in there, and I gave myself over to that in a way that made them buy into it was real to me while it was going on in there, because every ounce of it was for me, and it was an opportunity to be able to, I don't know, to convey my love for this unbelievable job that I had. So I don't know. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that kind of gets it there. So
You know what? I have one question that always happens. It happens to all of us that have played a sport, with regards to what respected craft that it is you do. Once you transition and you no longer can play said sport, have you been able to find something else that you're passionate about and that you love?
yeah,
That you can pour into the same way you did wrestling that made you one of the greatest?
I'll say this. For me, it's obviously my family, but it's also this. Again, it is now, because again, I had a wonderful change in my life with my faith and my wife and our children. Now I'm able to do this job, but I'm able to pass it forward. I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose.
Right.
I do one thing well in this lifetime, and it's wrestle. And I'm able to use that gift to give other young men and women that come through the doors of the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, the opportunity to have the amazing life that I've been given through this line of work. And so, and hopefully have an influence on them to live that in a positive and, successful way, but still be intact when they're done with it. Again, whether it's, the NFL, the NBA, or wrestling, the WWE, we have good stories and we have very sad and tragic stories. I want theirs to be a story that it ends with joy and happiness and peace. And so that's something, again, that Hunter put into the Performance Center when he started it 14 years ago, was a culture that was going to be unlike the business that we broke into.
Yes.
And that is something that we want to pass the tools of professional wrestling forward, but at the same time, we want the culture of our business to be different and to be more positive than it was when we got into it. We want to leave it better off than the way we came into it. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do, obviously, from a culture perspective as well.
When you devote so much of your life and your time to something, when you give so much to something, it takes a little from you also. When you travel and you do what you do, because people think, well, Shawn's only wrestling once a year because he's only doing the main event. He's only doing, a Summerfest or SummerSlam. That's not the case. You guys are on the road sometimes 250, 300 days a year. And yes, it's entertainment, but you're actually falling. You're falling on that mat. You're falling on those chairs. You're falling on that. And so you play the game of football, you play the game of baseball, basketball long enough, your body, it takes a toll on your body. How did your body feel now at 60 that you look back on it like, you know what? Because people ask Ocho and I all the time, knowing what you know now about the concussions and the toll it's going to take on your body, would you do it again? Yep.
Absolutely.
Probably would have started earlier. If knowing what you know now and how your body feels, Shawn, would you do it again?
Hell yes. I have had my back fused. I've had my shoulder replaced. I got 2 knees that I'm getting replaced in probably a month. and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Again, I knew that going in, as you guys did.
Yep.
I knew the price that was going to come along with it. When I worked on the road, we did 286 days. When I got a part-time schedule, it was 150 days. And I enjoyed every minute. I'm fortunate, again, especially later in my career, to have a wife and children that understood that. They still support me now. As you know, that's so important to have.
Absolutely.
But again, it's a part of who I am and who I've always been, and they recognize that. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. If they'd have given me a chance to start earlier, I would have. But again, you had to wait till you were 19 to get a license in Texas to be a wrestler. Right. So I waited till I was 19.
You were a part of many, many blockbuster wrestling events. This one we have, Canelo versus Crawford, is probably the biggest event that we've had in the boxing arena in a very, very long time, because you got two champions, undisputed champions. Bud in the 4-belt era, he's the first male to be a undisputed champion, 2 weight classes. Canelo has dominated the 168 division for the longest time. When you look at this fight and you look at it from a distance, an outside guy that loves fighting, what do you think? How do you think this thing's gonna play out?
So I guess for me, the biggest thing for me is that I'm happy to see boxing back to where, I guess I'll say, at least for me, and I hope that comes across well, back to where it once was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's the most positive thing coming out of all of this, when everything's said and done. I will just say I'm not the most educated, but for me it's hard to go, against Canelo.
Right.
And I guess, you know what I mean? That's just, there's so much there, a dominance there, and I guess in my lifetime, every time there's been a dominance like that in boxing, yes, it's got to end sometime. But I'm one of those people that just think that it's not yet.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, but since you got to get both knees replaced, I guess there ain't no chance of you getting back in the ring.
Not a chance. Not a chance. And even if they were, I'm so blessed and so fortunate to have done what I've done. But I am so overjoyed to be doing what I do now, and helping the future of the WWE and to be a part of that. NXT is just thriving on Tuesday nights on the CW network, and to help these young men and women, again to achieve their passions and their dreams is something that I didn't know. I had no idea I had enjoyed this much, but it is so great because I think the business is in just tremendous hands for the future.
When did you know it was over? When did Shawn Michaels know, I can't do anymore? If I won another title, it's not going to change anything. When did you know it was time to step away?
So my body still felt great. I still had plenty of left in the tank. Yeah. But I had a match. Again, it was the one with Undertaker, WrestleMania 25 in Houston, that made me feel so peaceful in a way that I'd never felt after a match in my entire life. Wow. I can remember driving home, because that's when we still lived in Texas, and we were driving home from Houston, and I looked at my wife and I said, honey, that might be the one I ended it on. And she looked at me, she said, what? And I said, yeah. I said, I feel a peace over me that I've never felt after a match before. And that's when we began to have the conversation, and it was the next year. They wanted to go back with one more with The Undertaker, and we obviously, put my career on the line and all that kind of stuff. And I had seen so many people struggle with it, leaving and walking away.
Yeah, it's hard. Getting in is easy, Shawn. It's the getting out part that's hard.
Well, and I watched so many guys struggle with that, and I felt like here I was at this opportunity where that wasn't going to be the case with me.
That was going to be you.
Yeah, and I was still healthy. I was still able to go. I was able to leave, as they say, on a high note.
Yes.
And so I just couldn't picture it being any more perfect than that. And so made that decision and have never looked back and regretted it. Again, I don't know. I just it was something that I've had such peace with. And again, like I said, I feel very fortunate to have had that, because I know so many have struggled with it in the past.
Even though you have peace, Do you miss it?
I don't. Not being in there, the physical aspect of it,
Right.
I don't miss. The travel, I don't miss. I guess I'm able now to still kind of get that same charge when we're sitting there and I'm telling a story to these talents, or I'm trying to convey this is what we're looking for out of this match, and we're going to tell this story, and this is going to happen. And at the end, hopefully they come unglued.
Yeah.
And when that happens and it all comes together, it's that feeling once again, but it's you watching the joy in that talent's heart. And again, when they're finally getting it. So it's in a different aspect that I receive kind of that charge that I used to have when I got in the ring.
Yes, sir.
Last question. Is there anybody that's currently wrestling, be it WWE, been an NXT, nonstop wrestling? Is there anybody that reminds Shawn Michaels that you see?
I'll say this: from an NXT standpoint, we have an unbelievable roster. I think somebody who you have to keep an eye on. He's 21 years old, and his name is Javon Evans.
Okay.
He's unbelievably dynamic, unbelievably talented, gifted. He just turned 21, I believe. And the future is so bright for that young man. He's going to be somebody that's going to be very big in the WWE, and obviously, I think probably before long, he'll probably be a flag bearer in NXT. So I'm excited to see the trajectory of his career.
Thanks for coming on, giving us a few moments of your time. The great Shawn Michaels, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all.
Legend.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure, baby.
Shannon,
Appreciate it,
thank you,
Shawn.
man.
Thank you.